Great road win for the Huskies and a great homecoming for KK Arnold. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, just want to take a moment to say how thankful we are for all of you, the fans. This podcast has grown so much in less than a year. And now that we're in 2025, we're just looking forward to it growing even more. This podcast is the number one college basketball show on the Locked On Podcast Network because of you. And it's because of fans like you who value this great content. And we're so happy to bring it to you. We're the only podcast that covers UConn men's and women's basketball daily, the hoops capital of the world. And we're thrilled to bring you the coverage that you deserve. So to show our gratitude, we're giving back. We're donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games and making monthly donations to NIL that make a huge difference for our programs. If you're enjoying the show, take a moment to subscribe, follow, and leave a review wherever you listen. Thanks again for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. Well, UConn women had a dominant win on the road, and it's kind of a 2025 fresh chapter. They're ringing the new year with a win over Marquette on the road to 45. And let's break this one down. Frosty day in Milwaukee, right? But the Huskies brought the heat. They started the Big East Road campaign with a bang. They were the number 7 ranked UConn squad, proved that, as we've talked about in this Big East schedule, they're obviously the class of the Big East. They have been for years. They were the class of the American when we had the detour to that conference. And really what it comes down to is it's just about consistency. And so, for example, Sarah Strong, probably the most consistent player from start to finish this year, led the way. She's living up to that last name. Impressive stat line, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Her play was incredible in versatility, poise, showing why she's already becoming the key, if not a vital cog in Geno Auriemma's machine, right? And we're going to talk at length about KK Arnold in the second segment, but the Wisconsin native stepped onto that Milwaukee court with what felt like something to prove. She's had kind of an uneven year so far. So she came off the bench, delivered a season-high 13 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds. Not to mention she shot 66% from the field. In her home state, no less, Auriemma had high praise for KK's performance, emphasizing her aggressive mindset, something that I think we all really appreciate about KK. And he said, because he's called her, the TikTok menace. But KK was the KK that we need to see every single game. That's a quote from Geno. So it wasn't just, individual brilliance, though. 3 of UConn starters finished in double figures. 10 different players made their mark on the scoreboard. The depth that we've talked about, it's here, guys. And as we talked about, I know some of you are going to be like, well, it's Marquette. Well, it's the Big East. But you can't underscore road wins by 30 points. I think they were a 24-point favorite. So they covered by 8 points. You had Allie Zabal, another Wisconsin native, had her moment in the closing minutes, sinking a layup in a three-pointer. Thought that was pretty cool. Just wanted to make sure that people understand that we are 100% behind. Even the players that aren't getting a ton of minutes, they're getting valuable experience. And this is the time when it's going to happen. It wasn't all smooth sailing. I think the beginning of the game was a little rough. They stumbled out of the gate, missing their first 4 shots, falling behind by 6. But this is UConn. They're really never down for long. I mean, even when they're playing a better competition, they seem to come back. Paige Beckers, she lit the spark, nailing a 3-pointer to launch a 7-0 run. That flipped the script. But by the end of the first quarter, UConn was rolling, outscoring Marquette 10-2 in the final stretch. And once they found the rhythm, it was game over. And the thing I loved about when they found their rhythm is the Huskies poured it on in the second quarter. But and we're going to talk about who did what in that second quarter. But as we talked about before, all these Big East games are going to look very similar. And as the team gets better and more consistent, the runs, the lulls are going to be less. So this was one of those moments where the lull was minimal and it didn't cost them a lot. You didn't feel uncomfortable like you did against USC or Notre Dame. So as far as the shooting from Caitlin Chen and AZ Fudd, obviously Chen, the transfer guard, was perfect in the quarter, and Fudd, returning from an E-sprain, knocked down a couple of threes while dishing out assists. Even when Marquette star Skylar Forbes tried to keep her team afloat with a strong start, UConn's defense had the answer. Sorry, little indigestion. Forcing turnovers, keeping Forbes in check for most of the game. The second half saw kind of a mix of rotation and some resilience. Geno Auriemma, another young standout, overcame a scary fall in the second quarter to dominate in the paint. Her back-to-back layups in the third quarter set the tone after a sluggish offensive start for the Huskies. And while Beckers and Fudd didn't have their best shooting nights, their presence and depth of the bench helped keep UConn firmly in control. And what I mean by that is, again, we've talked about this. When you have these scoring and these kind of worrisome players on a team, that opens things up. You're seeing Jana have more opportunities. You're seeing, who we're going to talk about in the third segment, Morgan Cheli. You're seeing KK Arnold come to bear. So the games against Notre Dame and USC have to be revisited, not necessarily with an asterisk because they were close in both. Notre Dame was obviously worse than USC, but no AZ means no worrying about a third potential scorer. And so now that the team is getting to where they need to be, that's why you're seeing more of a consistent trend throughout an entire game, less lulls, right? So 2025 starting off strong for UConn's women's basketball team. They're building something special. I know Geno is, keeps reminding us it's not about one or two players, and he's right. It's a collective, but there's specific players that are huge factors, and they create a trickle down effect of why a team plays well. So when you have the Paige Beckers and the AZ Fudds of the world and the Sarah Strongs of the world all healthy playing together, then KK's play gets exemplified, or you really kind of can trust the Geno Auriemma to be who she needs to be, because she doesn't have to do anything extra than just playing her role. So that's the biggest issue for UConn now, is just making sure these guys stay healthy and letting this Big East season kind of come to them, and the consistency will follow. I think that's the key for this season. So stick around, because the Big East season is just getting started. Coming up, we'll talk about KK's homecoming, and also how freshman Morgan Cheli is becoming a versatile, trusted player off the bench for Geno Auriemma's Huskies. We'll talk about that after the break. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but there's still time to join the excitement of the regular season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, FanDuel is giving you customers a chance to finish the season strong. Place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll snag $250 in bonus bets. That's right, $250 in bonus bets just for starting off with a winning play. FanDuel makes every game more thrilling. Personally, I love betting on which players will score a touchdown, those anytime scorers, and whether it's predicting big plays or live betting, there are endless ways to pick up a W with FanDuel. So don't wait. Visit FanDuel.com today and get started with $5, and that's FanDuel.com, where your $5 bet could unlock $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. KK Arnold, what a homecoming! If you were watching UConn versus Marquette, you saw something pretty special. KK didn't just play; she kind of did, and I'm not. This is no slight to Ashlyn. I think they weren't whole, but I was hoping Ashlyn would have the same kind of situation when she played at Indiana, when they played Notre Dame. But Arnold really kind of took the bull by the horns, and she owned her moment. So late in the third quarter, KK Arnold charged down the court like a force of nature, like the menace that Geno says she is, dribbling hard from half court. She faced one defender on one side, another meeting her outside the key, and yet a third lying in wait under the basket. Most players might hesitate, but KK, she drove straight into the lane, elevated through the contact, and finished with the layup as the whistle blew for a foul. So we got a sweet and one there. Normally, I'd say pull that back out and let's get it to Paige and get it to AZ to set something up. But in that moment, you could just tell that she was just like, I'm not going to be denied. She hit the floor hard, but what followed was the stuff of, sports legend. She clenched her fist, let out a roar in a moment of pure, unfiltered emotion. She got back on her feet. She sank the free throw and, effectively putting the game out of Marquette's reach. And that wasn't just a fluke play. And it's a microcosm of who she is on the court. And it's a microcosm of who she's been for UConn. I think she's had some difficulty with trying to find her footing, with Caitlin Chen kind of leading the charge of essentially the role that she had last year. And it, in a 77-45 victory, why is that important? Because it's the defining moment of KK Arnold's season so far, and it happened in her home state. And I think that gives you confidence that no matter where you play, whether traveling down to Columbia to face big bad South Carolina or going down to a Rocky Top and facing the Vols, her impact hopefully will continue to be contagious, undeniable. Had a season high 13 points and 7 assists, and her unrelenting defense. Because if KK can give that type of consistency, I'm not even talking, she doesn't have to score 13 points a game. If she can give me 10 points a game on a pretty regular basis, then we are going to be in a phenomenal position. Her evolution as a player has been really fascinating to watch. Last year, she was a freshman starter, forced to really learn on the fly, right? Managing her high-octane energy over 30-plus minutes a game. Now, with UConn's deeper roster, she's thriving in a role as the first player off the bench, and in particular in this game. So I think she's thriving is, when I was writing this out, I think I'm revisiting that word. And the reason why is because it matters in context. She has been a phenomenal contributor to this team, but I don't think she knows just how good she can be when she plays these games like in spurts, spurtability, having the not having to play 30 minutes is almost a blessing in disguise for her, because she can actually come out like a wrecking ball and just go, all out and empty the tank and then take a rest and then come in and do it again. And it's a shift that allows Arnold to, enter the game fresh, read the tempo from the sidelines, potentially, come in and immediately change the dynamics when she steps on the court, whether it's, pressuring the opposing ball handlers or attacking the rim. She becomes that spark that UConn hopefully will be able to rely on. And as Geno himself said, when KK is in the game definitely is different. And the way he said it, I think he understands and wants the fans to understand that it's not different in a way that, different could be good, different could be bad. It's different in a good way. It's controlled chaos. She's, she's able at this point, I feel like in her career, short as small as it may has been, but she's kind of learning to harness that energy, right? Do it in a smarter way. Let the game come to her. As in a quote from her is, I feel like I'm letting the game come to me more instead of just coming out there and going 100 miles per hour. She said that post game. So I think the approach was on full display against Marquette. She was, perfect from the free throw line. She got to the basket a bunch. So her defense is always impressive. Although I have to say her on-ball defense and pick and roll still needs some help, but this doesn't matter in this context, because Marquette didn't pose the type of threat that Notre Dame does. So when she does play the Notre Dame teams again, or big time shooters, she's got to be as intense as she was in this Wisconsin moment. I need this KK Arnold again when we play better competition. So great victory for the Huskies and for Arnold. I feel like it was definitely personal for her playing in front of her home state of Wisconsin. She had over 100 family members there, mentors cheering her on from the stands. Fellow Wisconsin native Ali Zaval joined in the fun, sinking a three-pointer late in the game off an assist from KK. So the two exchanged smiles and gestures, kind of a fitting nod to people that have shared roots and an impact they had on the night. KK was quoted as saying, "It's always feels like home," reflecting on the support she received. It just felt good. It felt like a whole new vibe. I want to mention this before we look ahead to the rest of the season, and then the third segment about Morgan. I saw someone sent me an interesting Instagram post of, it's just like a fan account, like a Paige Becker's fan account, but it's the whole team sitting in a room, I think one of the dorm rooms, with Janelle Elfie. And as she was waiting to see if she got accepted into the law program at UConn, And of course she does, and they all lose their minds. But it's on our Instagram story at Locked On UConn. Go check it out. I am I think just it's just such a cool thing for a member of the team. First off, kudos to her. She's going to law school. I think I'm super excited for her. She's getting better on the court, but what a moment. She's probably a person that could be a pro later in life, but if she wants to be a lawyer, I'm sure she'll get a ton of work as time goes on. What an imposing law figure. And I don't know if she's going to be in a courtroom, but that'd be pretty wild to see a 6'5" Geno Auriemma cross-examining someone. I think she might be pretty intimidating. So pretty cool stuff from her. Looking ahead, UConn now is 12-2 overall, 3-0 in the Big East. The team heads to Pennsylvania for a matchup against Villanova. And if KK Arnold continues to play with this level of intensity and focus, the Huskies have every reason to feel confident, not only just for that game, but for the rest of the season. So that's all for this segment. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about Morgan Cheli's versatility and how she's becoming a trusted player off the bench for Geno Auriemma. If you're attending the new 12-team college football playoff, it's got to be an incredible experience. And it's got to bring fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games, and I can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I used Game Time Picks to find tickets for an upcoming game at Gamble, and browsing through the deals was a breeze. I found great value for all kinds of seats around the venue. The super deal in particular stood out as the best value for the event. I love that I could see the seat views before buying, and the app shows the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, on-time ticket delivery and lowest price guarantee give me peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn with your host, Mark Zanetto here. Thank you for being a part of the program. So we talked about the game itself. Sarah was great. Paige and AZ were okay. That's the crazy thing is when Paige and AZ are decent and others like KK step up and Sarah is who she is, the team is so much better than what we've seen. And we have more coming along the way with potentially Aubrey Griffin in a couple of weeks, maybe getting ramped up to play some games. So it's all good in my opinion. I am cautiously optimistic about the rest of this year. And one of the reasons why I am is because freshman Morgan Cheli is in a lineup that's as star-studded as the Huskies. It's not always easy to find, minutes. Minutes are incredibly valuable when you're on one of these. It's not a super team, but when you're a big time recruit and you have Paige Beckers, the best player in the world, AZ Fudd, who's probably a top 5 WNBA draft pick, Sarah Strong, who probably is the most impactful player in all of college basketball in terms of what she provides, to be able to crack a lineup that has those three indelible stars is hard because you have people in front of you like Caitlin Chen, who's played 4 years at Princeton and now is a grad student. You have KK Arnold, who started last year. You have Ashlyn Shade, who was the Big East Freshman of the Year. You have Ice Brady, who played a big role in last year's run to the Final Four. And then you have Geno Auriemma, who's kind of getting her feet underneath her. So it's kind of interesting that she's proving to be one of the team's most versatile and valuable assets. And her story this season is kind of what's great about her as a person. She's adaptable. She's showing a lot of grit and patience. So Morgan's journey to UConn in the front court is anything but typical. When she arrived, she trained with the guards during positional drills, as she's done for most of her basketball career. But one day, Geno came to her and had a different vision. Without much explanation, he directed her to join the forwards instead. So Cheli laughed as she recalls the moment, saying, quote, "I'm obviously going to listen to him." So at 6'2", Cheli's size and skill set made the transition seamless. In high school, she ran the point and thrived on the perimeter, but her length and basketball IQ have allowed her to slot into the front court. as a stretch four. This flexibility has been crucial for UConn. And when they play smaller teams, it allows them to be in a situation where you can put Sarah at the 5, Morgan at the 4, and with AZ back, you can put AZ, Paige, Caitlin, KK, whoever you want. So there's more flexibility for stretch shooters with more spacing, and I think it's brilliant. So it's given them a potential small ball lineup to play faster, to create more turnovers, and have more shooting. And there's just no way to put it this way. I'll just use a quote from Geno. There's not a way that you pigeonhole her and say she's this or that. She just contributes in a lot of ways. And like any freshman, she had early growing pains. Her breakout performance came against Georgetown, where she stuffed the stat sheet: 5 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. 2 games later, she played a pivotal role in UConn's second half comeback against USC. Though her numbers weren't eye-popping, right? She had 5 points and a rebound. She was plus 15 with her on the court versus when she was not. She's got a different skill set than Ice Brady, according and even Sarah Auriemma said. You put her out there with Sarah like we had in the USC game, and that's a tough matchup for the other team. 1,000% agree with Geno. So as a freshman, she's embraced her role as the team's Swiss Army knife, a term I love to use, and I probably overuse it, stepping into any position or responsibility the team needs. And still, she admits her comfort zone remains on the perimeter. This is her quote: "I'm more comfortable outside, but like I said, when it came to coming here, whatever I can do and whatever they need, I want to be willing and more than willing to do that," she said. "I've tried to just take it all and run with it." I mean, is there a more perfect attitude than that? I mean, it's a coach's dream. It's a fan's dream too, because she's helping the team adapt and create a scenario where they're going to be better because she's willing to create a different structure for herself. Giving the chance to develop parts of her game that might have otherwise gone untapped. And this is the beautiful thing about this team. And this is something that definitely doesn't get talked about enough by myself or anybody else. She's getting mentored by Aubrey Griffin, right? Aubrey, before her ACL injury, Griffin played a role similar to Cheli's, bouncing between the backcourt and the front court with ease. Now, Griffin has been helping Morgan navigate her transition into this hybrid role. Quote from Morgan: "She's giving me tips and just reminds me to stay confident when I'm in there. She's been an absolute great help. The two have also formed a bond off the court. From what I understand, Cheli is counting down the days until Griffin returns to game action. She said, I'm so excited. She's been practicing more, and you can start to see her getting more comfortable, and I'm really excited to have her back." I love that. I love that because I love that kind of, old vet, rookie coming together. It's like a movie, right? Cheli's rapid growth has been one of UConn's most encouraging storylines. She didn't even play against Ole Miss. Now she's firmly in the rotation and poised to see her minutes and responsibilities continue to grow. Quote from Geno: "The more minutes she gets, the better we're going to be because of her versatility." And that's the magic of this part of the year. People may dislike that the Big East is down, but it's given Geno the opportunity to find the Morgan Chelis of the world minutes and get the confidence that she needs so that when she plays Tennessee, South Carolina, anybody in the NCAA tournament, as Aubrey Griffin is telling her, stay confident, you'll be fine. So Cheli's versatility and determination might just be the game-changing situation for the Huskies this season amongst many of question marks, right? Does AZ stay healthy? Do we get Aubrey Griffin back in some capacity? But it just adds another wrinkle, and maybe there's more. I don't see Geno going past Morgan for big time minutes from Allie or I just Caden Samuels isn't getting minutes, so like all of that is contingent on staying healthy. And if they do, and Morgan's kind of the freshman off the bench that really kind of helps them get to that next level, I'm here for it. All right, guys, this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm Mark Sinetto, asking you to stay locked on, stay connected, and to remember it's not just about getting it done. It's about doing it in a way it can't be done any better. That's our goal every day. Guess what? Go Huskies.